All right, we're on. Okay, so the first thing on our agenda today is what is health literacy and why is it so important? So
I
start shouting
think
it.
health literacy is the ability of different people to be able to understand what is being said in terms of health and what is required of them in terms of health, and yeah, their understanding of their own health. I think that's all health literacy.
I was really surprised from the reading that it said that only 14%, was it 14 or was that what it was? It was something like that. It was pretty low.
Yeah, it was 14%, and I was really surprised.
Yeah, 14% of people have sufficient health literacy, and I mean, I guess because of like my major, and I'm sure the rest of you, like I'm a health major, and so I feel like I have a pretty good health literacy, or I understand that stuff really well. But some of the importance of it is it affects our children and it affects the people that we're around, because if we don't have healthy habits and if we don't understand it, then the likelihood of our children or like us passing that on to our children is a lot less. Like kind of and it can affect our children physically as well. Like for example, folic acid when you're pregnant. I was really surprised. I did for one of my classes, like we did a survey on how many people know that you're supposed to have like 400 or a minimum of 400 milligrams of folic acid during pregnancy. And there was like, the percentage was really low. And I feel like that should just be common, not like, I felt like I always knew that, like that. I'm surprised how many people don't know that.
What I thought was interesting is it said that even people who have high education, some people still don't have good health literacy. And I just thought, if you have a higher education, of course you should know this. Of course you should know what doctors mean, but
yeah. No, it depends on the field of study they went into. For example, my mom, she went into social sciences, so she became a caseworker and a social worker for everybody. She had a really high health literacy. However, her engineer husband did not.
Yeah.
However, he was smart enough to be able to learn it. So as they went through the whole process of learning in their college years and everything, their focus was very different. Engineering doesn't talk about anything with health. Social sciences does. It talks about social health. It talks about physical health because it's all interrelated. So somebody who studied math, yeah, not so much. Somebody who studied the humanities, more likely.
Definitely.
I think that's really true. Well, so in my family, like health was really a big deal. My dad didn't go to college. He graduated from high school and then entered the workforce, and then he did some technical training and stuff. But he learned, about health literacy and about his health. Like that was really important to him. But my husband, on the other hand, like while he's educated, he doesn't have any health literacy. He is retarded when it comes to that.
Well, I think there's a difference too between health literacy and like people following what they know or what they hear or what they know is like valid information.
Going along with
very health literate, but be very unhealthy.
Yeah.
Well, going along with that too, like there's a lot of false information out there. Like, you see things on Facebook about like, oh, this is good for you, or these 5 health tips, and they could be total like crap, and people still believe it. So they're health literate, but they really aren't.
Yeah, they have to find reliable sources, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's really not, because I have a sister-in-law, and she is a physician, very health literate. She has her bachelor's degree, but she's full of ideas. These blog posts that she really believes are like gospel as far as health literacy is concerned, and she is very and things, and you have to take everything with a grain of salt because it's not peer-reviewed journals that she's blogs.
My sister-in-law just had a baby, and it's just been the exact same thing. Like she's been reading all this stuff on, like, I read this online, so obviously it's true, and she thinks she knows all this stuff, and I'm like,
It's the
No.
worst.
One came across my desk yesterday that I found very interesting. It's like, why the government wants you to believe that coconut oil is a bad saturated fat. And I'm like, have you looked at the evidence? It's still a saturated fat. Doesn't matter if it came from a vegetable or not. It's still a saturated fat.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to laugh.
Crazy.
The gluten-free thing, like this gluten-free trend that everyone's going on, because everyone's like, well, gluten makes you fat. Gluten doesn't make you fat. It's other things that have gluten in it that make you fat. But
Eating excessive carbs makes you fat.
Everyone thinks that gluten makes you fat, so no one wants to eat gluten.
I promise you, if I did not have celiac disease, I would be eating my gluten.
I love bread too.
Just for the nutritional value alone. I mean, there's so many things that, because I'm celiac, I have to really pay attention. Because I'm celiac and I'm dairy intolerant, absolutely intolerant. It makes me sicker than a dog. And with those two, I have to really figure out and get really creative on how to get those nutrients into my body. And I'm planning meals all the time and going, okay, how am I going to get this folic acid? Because I can't get it.
Yeah.
Everything's enriched, and it's like, okay, I need it. I'm still in, childbearing years. Not that I'm expecting to do that again, because 6 is plenty. But the reality is I have to have it still in my diet.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so does anyone have
6 is plenty.
Do we want to move on to the next thing on the agenda?
Yeah.
All good. All right, I'll take that as we can move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's review the Shannon Weaver model 7 key components. Do any of you have that up? If not, I can.
I have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the first step is the sender. So that's the person who is sending the information. And then we have the encoding, which is the way the information is packaged for transmission. Then we have the message, which is the package of information being communicated between the sender and and then we have the channel, which is the medium used to transmit the encoded message. So this can be like face-to-face, over the phone, email, that kind of channel. And then decoding is the way the message is unpackaged following transmission. We have the receiver, who is the person or audience who is getting the information. And then noise, which is any type of interference for the communication. So this can be things that's like distractions, hunger, dropped phone calls, static on the TV, that kind of thing.
I like the part, like the noise part, because that's something when we're thinking about health communication, I think we overlook that. Like there might be something that interferes. And so I think something that can be considered noise is conflicting ideas or like opposing opinions, like to what you're trying to say. Like we were just talking about, all this stuff on Facebook that's telling you basically all this stuff that probably isn't true, that everyone's believing. I think that's considered noise. And we don't account for that when we're sending across, or I think a lot of times we don't account for that when we're trying to send health messages. Like, how are we going to make this more attractive than the noise or the conflicting things around it?
Mm-hmm. Another thing I was thinking about that could be like a conflict is the population that you're targeting when you're communicating with one. If they have like a different language than you or something, that creates noise because they can't fully understand what you're saying. You have to definitely keep in perspective the type of population you're targeting when you're having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it said things going on in the background. I work on a pediatrics unit at a hospital, and when we have parents and kids arriving, we give them so much information, and I know that they're not going to remember it, and I know that they're just in a frenzy because their kid is sick, and now they're in the hospital, and they're telling all their family that they're there, and they don't really know what's going on, and I don't know. It's hard in the hospital, so that noise is a really big component of, I think, a problem in the communication in the hospital, at least.
Oh, it is at home too. Did you see my 6 running around?
Yeah.
I And my little one's coming up and being sweet voice.
Super cute voice. I like it.
Oh, she's sweet. But, you know, then you got my big one going, come on, guys, get it done. And I'm like, I'm trying to listen. It's like, where are my earbuds today? You dropped a bunch of stuff. Sorry. He dropped a bunch of stuff. Noise. There you go.
All right. Is there anything else you guys want to discuss on, like, as far as reviewing that, or can we move on?
I wish that it's very metaphorical the way they describe these processes or these different, I don't know what you call them, factors. I mean, I understood what they were saying, but like package for transmission or the package, and I thought it was a little silly. I just wanted to throw that out.
I feel like I'm glad I'm not going into, I mean, maybe someday I'll have to work on health communication, but it would be really stressful with the packet message, like trying to figure out how people are going to perceive this and how they're going to read it or understand it. So I have to put it in such a way that they and account for all the different factors. That's, yeah, hard.
I think that's hard too, because I look at something and I want to explain it the way I understand it. I'm not very good at explaining things on a different level or changing the wording or making it so other people are able to understand it. I'm not good at that, so that would be really challenging for me.
That plain language thing. I learned all about that this weekend. My one of my older children was here for dinner, and she's like, she was talking about, oh, don't eat that. There's no fat in it. And it was like, honey, fat isn't what makes you fat. And then she's looking at me going, I don't know if I believe you on that. And so I had to explain to her, it's the excess of calories or excess of energy. Well, when I said excess of energy and your body storing energy is what actually adds extra fat, because that's where it's stored. She did not, she was like, I was talking over her head, and I'm like, okay, sweetheart, let me think. So it took me like 10 minutes to figure out how to explain to her that it's not, fat that makes you fat. It's not carbs that makes you fat. It's the excess of caloric intake, the more calories than what your body uses, because then it's storing the energy. That stored energy we see as fat on our bodies. And so it took a long time for me to be able to figure out how to say that to her. And as we were reading this lesson or reading this material, I was like, oh, that's exactly what this problem was, is the encoding wasn't working. Yeah. And she was not able to decode it in a way that she could understand it until, I mean, I kid you not, it took 10 minutes of back and forth. And it was like, okay, all right, now I get it. And she's 27.
I think this is a big reason why health literacy is so low, because it's really hard for some people to encode what things are saying or what's being said. Like if you're in a doctor's office and a doctor's talking to you, a lot of times the terms that they use or the way they explain it, you don't understand what they're saying, or a lot of people aren't going to understand. And I think that is one of the biggest things, like for people that go into a doctor, go in and get information from a provider, is that they don't understand what's being said, or they don't understand, or they don't encode it the way it's. They don't get the message that was intended for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I think part of health communication, like I think that's why literacy is so low.
I think part of it too is that people don't ask questions when they don't understand. And so they can't really try to decode the information for themselves because they're not asking the right questions to try to figure everything out. They just
and that is very true. I go to the doctors with a lot of people because they're like, I don't know what questions to ask. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. And so I do. I go and I ask and I ask and I ask and I ask. And they're like, how do you know to ask all these questions? I go, if I don't understand it, I'm not afraid to ask.
Exactly.
So
I think people don't want to look stupid in front of doctors. And it wasn't until I started working with doctors that I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are regular people. They make mistakes all the time. They're trying to figure this out as much as anybody else is. And I became a lot more comfortable. But seeing how doctors interact with patients, I just see parents and people nod their heads, and I'm like, I know they're not understanding this. I know they're not going to remember
You
how
can
to.
like tell by their facial expression. They're like,
Yeah. Yeah, and doctors, especially in the hospital, are just like trying to do things as fast as they can. They're trying to go to all their patients. They're like, nope, I told them how to do it. But yeah, difficult.
I see that too.
Okay, so are we okay to move on to the next part? How many did you guys watch the public service announcement?
Oh yeah, I made my children watch it too.
Okay.
My driving children.
Is there a way
I
we
hate that.
the
We're
screen?
supposed to evaluate the public service announcement and discuss the components as well as the message to us.
I can pull it up if you want me to, so we can all watch it.
Has everyone watched it, or do some of you need to watch it still?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
sure.
haven't either.
Okay.
If you would
so
pull it up, that'd be great.
you bet. Let me grab it. Whew, okay. Got to get my link to work, which means a copy and paste. So hang on just real quick. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
It was really good, and I did make my children watch it because it was kind of, yeah, it was good. All right. Okay. Right now I'm going to share my screen. And okay, so you guys see everything for a minute.
It's okay. We already saw your kids with the broom behind you.
Okay. Can you guys hear it?
We can't even see it.
I'm going to start it over.
I only see you on the screen.
Really?
Did you click screen share?
I did. Okay, hang on here. Then let me go back and make sure why it's not. Yeah. Oh, that's why, because I didn't hit the last button. Okay.
There we go.
Oh, got it.
Can you turn it up, Tracy?
Okay, yeah.
Thanks. I can't
Woo!
hear it.
Okay, I'll start it
I
over.
can't
then.
hear anything either.
Okay, I'll start over. Is that better?
No, the volume isn't working.
Okay, hang on. Is that better?
Yep. Wait, maybe not.
Oh, no. Okay, I'll start over. It does get quiet.
I don't know if the volume's working.
We could just watch it ourselves real fast too,
Yeah.
because it's 1 minute long.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen then.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute myself so that I can watch it real quick.
Okay,
Me too.
I'm getting there. You didn't go with them? Well, you don't have to go swimming. Go to the Y.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh boy, that was so sad.
Wasn't it though?
I hate texting and driving. Like, I
definitely-
get so pissed when I drive past people and they're texting. I honk at them. I hate it so bad. Some people do it and they think it's really quick and stuff. I don't care. Like, it makes me so mad.
Well, I think that the biggest problem is that I don't think it's as much the younger drivers anymore. I think we're now coming into it being the older drivers, because it's like my sister. Okay, we're both in our 40s, and I've got kids I'm teaching to drive. Okay, my son just got his driver's license. My daughter's had her license for a couple of years now. I have another one getting their permit. So it tells you I'm in my 40s and I'm feeling a little old, And what I notice is that because I'm teaching them to drive, I am absolutely staying away from my phone. I've got my Bluetooth. I've got my thing up there. If I get a text, I tell them to read it. I'm not going to read it. Read it. Tell me what it says. Okay, great. Whatever. But my sister, who is just a couple years younger than me, is an experienced driver. And she does a quick text. And I'm like, your Bluetooth has the capability, and hers has the capability to answer text. It's got the text to voice and all of that. Use it. Don't do this. And she's doing this while she's driving a manual transmission. And I'm going, you're going to kill somebody. It's worse than drunk driving. And I think
it's fine. They think they're the exception.
Right.
My sister died in a car accident, and so I'm really just like, and the driver, right. and he killed her and her 2 kids, and I just think it's not okay.
No, it's not.
My freshman year of high school, my dad was driving me to seminary, and we were crossing a road, and a girl was texting and driving, and she blew a stop sign and hit the driver's side and knocked our car over, because she was speeding as well, and she knocked our car over 100 feet, and both of us almost died. But
oh my god,
wild.
So it was like, I wasn't driving yet, but like, because of that experience, like, anyone who texts and drives, and like, you are not only putting your own life at risk, you're putting everybody else. You're putting everyone in the car,
other cars. Oh, it makes me so mad.
So like 2 years ago, I was driving down a highway, and I was alone. I just got off work, so my mind was already like trying to decompress from my stressful day at work. And I was texting my brother because he asked if I wanted him to pick me up food. And so I was texting him, and there's no one ever on this highway. So I was like, oh, I'm fine. So I picked up my phone and I was texting him back, and I didn't look up because I was texting to see that there was a pileup right in front of me. And so when I looked up, it was too late. So I hit my brakes, and I could just remember them squealing, but I still hit the car in front of me because I wasn't paying attention. And so ever since that accident, I have been like so keen on leaving my phone and my purse away from me, like, so I'm not even distracted while I'm driving, because that like terrified me for life.
I know. I wish there was a way to get people, because like, I wish there was a way to get people to before like an accident happens, but it seems like it's only like disincentives. Like, if cops could really like hone in on this and really make huge, or people get in accidents, and that's the only way they learn.
Like, my boyfriend's a cop, and he's like, you can't prove that people are texting, and they all tell you they're not, and you try to pull them over, and they're like, oh no, I was just changing I was just changing my music, and you have to be able to prove it. And so it's one of those things that's a law. But
in Washington, they've recently changed the law, which is actually really cool. What it is, distracted driving at all, and it's a no proof issue. So if you were seen with this thing in your hand, you cannot touch your device, even at a stoplight.
Wow.
If you touch your device at a stoplight, even, you could get a $375 ticket. So the policymakers in Washington State have recently gone to that, and it goes into effect July 1st. And it's been all over all of the billboards, and it's
Wow.
Washington State public health people are really honing in on this because in Washington, there were more deaths in Washington State due to distracted driving than drunk driving last year.
Whoa.
So it's at a huge high in Washington. And so,
I don't think one's better than the other. And so us
I
as
don't think
members
so
of the
either. And I think, yeah, it's
remember,
huge.
so I'm from Washington as well, and I remember when they came out with the no, like you couldn't talk on your phone. That was kind of before like texting, or before texting got really big. My mom was awful with talking on the phone and driving. I don't know if she is now, but she got pulled over quite a few times because she'd be talking on her phone. But and to say like Washington State is like really bad or is worse for distracted driving than drunk driving, that's saying a lot. Because I lived on a reservation and drunk driving was really, really bad. And the year I left, it was like texting and driving was just becoming a really bad issue. So
let's see. Should we answer the questions about this?
Yeah. Okay, so what component? Okay, sorry. Discuss the components of the message.
Are we going over like the 7 that we just talked about in the action model?
Yeah.
Okay. I have some of them. I don't know if how accurate they are, because this question kind of threw me off a little bit. So for the sender, I put the public service announcement. So is that kind of?
I also added the 1 Hour Optical and Channel 6 News because they're the ones who actually sponsored the message.
That's true. Okay. And then for encoding, I put they use like the storyline and the emotion to send the message. And then for the message, I put how texting and driving is dangerous and can cause an accident. And then for channel, I put public service announcement and ABC News. And then for decoding, I was putting makes the receiver think about the effects of texting and driving. That's as far as I was getting while I was watching the video.
For receiver, I'd say the receiver is probably like youth age, just because that was the person who, like, that's who they used for the person who was texting and driving in the ad.
And family, because they'll think about.
I was going to say, it hit me as a mom who has 6 kids in the back of the car. It hit me. It was like, those are my babies.
Definitely. I don't even have kids. I like got all teary-eyed the first time I watched it. I was like,
right. And it made me think about the experienced drivers who think that they're better than the teen driver.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're not any better than the teen driver. It's still distracted driving.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where this could improve on, is it really hones in on teens, but
okay.
They're not the only ones.
No, they're not.
So for noise, I wasn't really sure what to do for that. Like,
would it be the actual like?
I could be the act doing it, like just saying, "Oh, it's okay. It's just one quick text," or.
I said your own thoughts. It won't happen to me. I'm an experienced driver. You know, my kids in the background. I didn't get to see the whole commercial. You know, those kinds of things are the noise, I would think. And so it's not just your thoughts, but what's going on around. It's just a commercial. I'm gonna go pick this up.
Well, and for me, like the commercial, like it was like scary to me because I've been there. I've been the victim. I wasn't the person texting, but I've been the victim, and that terrifies me as a future parent. Like, what if I'm driving my kids around and someone's texting and driving and I'm less worried about myself, but what about my children? Like,
right.
That's what scares me.
I think the other part too, though, is like once you have children who are of driving age, is making sure that they're responsible and that they're not the ones thinking, oh, it's just a quick text, I'll go ahead and respond. It's my mom calling, I should answer because she'll, or whatever. Like, what you have to teach them that's not okay.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I don't text my drivers. I only call my drivers. and they all have Bluetooth.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah, I do not text my drivers. Absolutely not. Not if they have a car with them, I don't text my drivers.
Yeah.
It's like, don't text the drivers. And here's one of my drivers.
So moving on to the next part, what components are strong and what could they have done differently?
I think the components that are strong is using that emotion in the message to really like impact our feelings on how texting and driving like can really affect you. I don't know. I think the emotions that they used in the storyline was really good.
The big emotion for me was like the mom saying my kids are in the car. Like I think that's the strongest emotion for me. Like, cause then it's not just an adult. Like there's verbal.
Well, and she didn't say my kids. She said my babies.
Yeah, my baby.
And because, I don't know why that does it, but that word, if I say my kids are in the car, but you know what? That's not how I feel about those kids. Those kids are my babies. I worked hard to get those kids here, and dang it, you don't have a right to take them out of this world. Only I do. Mm-hmm. That's what I tell them. It's like, I'm your mother. and
I also
think
felt the emotion from the driver, how she felt, the texter, she felt it, and there's nothing that she could do at that certain point, and she was trying to explain that she didn't mean anything wrong, but it was just too late.
Yeah.
Right. Because she wasn't done, and she couldn't change what she was in the process of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they showed her friends in the car, that these are people she cares about too.
Definitely.
These are the ones who are trusting her.
Behind the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Strong one. But I think they could have done differently, just like adjusting it, making it more universal to all the viewers instead of more like family oriented and youth oriented.
You know what? I agree, but I think it's probably in another message, because I think you're going to have to target each part of the population on it.
So too.
Because I think that the target population on this is anyone who owns a smartphone. But I mean, it's what I think that the overall message is. And I think it's one of those that you'd have to divide it and say, okay, here's one, but now you need the businessman who, what's really funny is there's a movie that really, that brought it home to me was Doctor Strange. That's how he got in a car accident. Yeah. He was messing with his smartphone.
Yeah, he was invincible.
Exactly. And that's, I think even that was pretty good for that message. But I think that that's part of what I think a separate message for that needs to be in there, because this one is very powerful. I think it just needs a second one.
Right. I think just like a series of videos.
That's I like that.
A series of different commercials. Collection.
Well, something that illustrates that everybody is subject to this.
So, to you guys, how did this message change behavior, or how do you think it will change behavior?
I think it'll make people think twice about texting and driving and the effect of it. What could possibly be an outcome of doing so?
Yeah.
I think people might need to have exposure to this, like seeing it the first time, they might start considering it. But I think
the flashes on commercials, like on TV.
Yeah.
So it gets in people's heads.
Well, I sent it to Facebook.
Good.
Because it doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't. And my friends honestly watch less TV and more Facebook or more social media than they do television commercials. I mean, okay, Netflix doesn't have commercials yet. And we don't have cable, but we have Netflix. So I never would have seen this commercial if it didn't come across some form of social media.
Okay.
I mean, and I think that's more common nowadays, even because to have cable's stinking expensive. But Netflix is not expensive because it comes on across my, just for my internet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think I've watched a regular TV show in years. What? Oh, Pearl does, but I haven't. So I think that that's one thing that it needs to happen. It's everybody send it.
So with the last few minutes that we have, if some of us need to leave, review the application assignment for this week and brainstorm any ideas or answer questions as a group on how to evaluate communication interventions. So have you guys looked at the application assignment? I have it up if you guys have it.
Yeah, I'm almost finished with it.
Are you?
Pull it up.
I found one actually, like for the radio service announcement. It's one that's been playing here in Rexburg. I haven't heard it for a while, but it's one that really caught my attention because it was about drug use in like youth, like it was targeting youth in high school. And I can't remember, I don't even remember what station it was on, but it doesn't really matter. It was just something like, because normally I don't pay attention to radio ads. Half the time I just change the channel or I change the station. But this one like really catches your attention. It's like, hey, like it uses language that gets your attention. It's not just a general like radio ad lingo, like, you know, those annoying car salesmen. It like really gets your attention. So I need to find that one because that's one that I was going to use.
What's it about?
It's about drug use in youth.
Like what does it say?
Oh, it just says like you don't need like drug use isn't going to make you popular. Think about what this is going to do to your future. Like I can't remember exactly what it says. It's been about a month since I heard it, but it basically just says you don't need drugs to be cool, or and then it like has someone like someone say, I started doing drugs when I was like 13 and now I'm in rehab and I didn't get and I didn't graduate from high school. Like it has someone telling you the consequences of doing it. So it's just one that I really liked that caught my attention.
The one on TV that always catches my attention is the tobacco ones. And they like show someone pulling out their teeth to pay for their things to get more
Yeah.
Those are intense, but they definitely get the message across.
Yeah, that's a really creative way to show it, I think.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one that my kids got the biggest reaction out of is the science class. And, you know, they've got the cigarettes on the table, and then all of a sudden it becomes this big, horrid monster that takes over. And it's like, that's what it is.
Runs your life, yeah.
I know that, I can't remember if it was, I think it was on Hulu, but it was playing for, like, I don't know if you have Hulu, they have like 7 ads now. And they would replay the same one for like all 7 ads. And it was really an emotional one. I know that there's a lot of controversy around it, but it was for the HPV vaccine. And so they had children talking about, or they had, I guess, the adults now that they've grown up looking back as a child and how now they're having, like, they have cancer, and it's like the child voice is asking their parents, like, why didn't you vaccinate me? Why didn't you protect me against this? Now I have cancer. Now I'm going through this. And it definitely had a very strong emotional argument.
Yeah, for sure.
I just got all of mine for the assignment. If you're having a hard time finding ones, just from the Ad Council website, like it said.
Okay.
And they're really good.
Okay. Good to know.
All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to discuss or anything more about the assignment before we finish up?
It's our last meeting.
Woohoo!
Oh, it is?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Is it? Okay.
It's been nice chatting with you ladies. It's just kind of hard to make time, you know, and like, but it's good.
I understand. Have we had a call yet with everybody on it?
I think last week.
Did we? Okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, I didn't count heads last week.
Ugh.
Okay. All right. So who's turning this in this week?
I'll turn it in. I got it.
Okay. All right. You got it. And then send us all a message with the link and the confirmation that you turned it in.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Nice
Enjoy the
to meet all
rest of
of
your
you.
semester.
Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.